The world of close-up photography is indeed a world unto itself, and perhaps you're still saving hard for that one-day purchase of a macro lens, which could cost anywhere from $4, $5, $6, even $700. Hi, I'm Bryan Peterson, author of Learning to See Creatively and Understanding Exposure and Understanding Shutter Speed. Earlier today I was out walking on the beach. You can probably hear the seagulls in the background. And I have no idea what kind of shells these are, but I was intrigued by the interior of these shells that had come up on shore. They're very rainbow-like on the insides, and yet very nondescript, kind of a dirt brown on the outside. I can assure you before this day's over, I'll Google and find out what I photographed. Nonetheless, I gathered up a bunch of these shells and I've placed them up here on this sandy beach. And I'm going to share something with you that may surprise you and also be welcome news, because you don't have to spend upwards of $700 on a macro lens. In fact, you can spend far less. I'm just about ready to go. I've got my camera mounted on tripod. I've got the 70 to 200 millimeter lens on there, but the drawback to using that lens as it sits right now, it can only focus down to about 5 feet. Clearly, as you can possibly see here, I'm much closer than 5 feet to those shells. I'm not going to worry about it though, because I'm about to put on my savior. This is the Canon 500D close-up lens, not to be confused with close-up filters. Close-up filters come in ranges of +1, +2, +4. They're a 3-lens kit. You'll also discover, if you see these in the camera stores, they can be bought for about $30 to $40. Here's my advice: don't buy them. Optically, they're terrible. Just forget about it. It'll frustrate you more than make you happy. The edges will be out of focus more often than not. What you need to do is take some of that macro money you have set aside, or if you haven't began a macro fund, don't go towards the macro and instead take a detour and consider buying the Canon lens, close-up lens 500D. It's about $180 at places like Adorama. Once this lens is on the camera, it will only focus close within a predetermined range, and you'll discover that as you zoom in and out in focus. Depending upon what lens you put it on, I should mention too, Canon recommends only on the telephoto, but truth be told, I've actually used this with great success on my wide angles as well, allowing me to get even closer to foreground interest. Granted, in both cases, with this as well as with the wide angle, you no longer can focus to infinity, but that's hardly an issue when we're speaking about shooting close-ups. So let's go and take a look and see exactly how this plays out. Okay, I've got the filter now in place, and as you may notice, I've got some dappled light coming across some of these shells, and the purpose of my reflector in this case is just to block that light. I want to have a constant open shade. I don't want any sun streaks in this case. So that's all done, and with my other hand, I'm now going to go through the exposure process. Let's begin with, what aperture should I use here? Well, in this case, it's a classic case of a who cares, meaning everything for the most part is at the same focus distance. So I'm going to land on 11, and now all I have to do is adjust my shutter speed until the correct exposure is indicated, and I find that's at a 1/25th of a second. Not a 1/125th, but a 1/25th. 2.5. And with the self-timer engaged on the camera, so I'm completely freed from touching the camera during the exposure. I don't want any vibrations. I'm good to go. 2 seconds later, it takes the shot. What do you think? Clearly, this idea is not limited just to seashells. In fact, it works equally well with subjects such as flowers. Take a look at this first example without the close-up lens, and now take a look at the second example with the addition of the close-up lens. Same thing applies with this baby dragonfly at the edge of a swamp. The first image was taken without the close-up lens, and the second with. Hey, I'm here to help, and I hope this idea made sense to you, because for $180, you're on your way to shooting some amazing close-ups, and gosh, this world is filled with close-up opportunity galore. Until next time, this is Bryan Peterson saying, keep shooting.